And the seat.
Tonight, the star strategist of the 90s bull market, Abby Cohen, closes out the last full trading day of a century defined by the Dow. A special look at the world's best-known index. But it's not the Dow on track to record the best year ever for any major index. We'll look at a mighty 99 for the NASDAQ. The company that changed the way you got mail in the 90s, that emerged as the decade's hottest stock, AOL. And teenagers in the 80s, CEOs in the 90s, dot-com entrepreneurs, under 30 and up for the challenge.
There's no book in the library somewhere that says, you know, how to build an internet business 101 that you can pull off the bookshelf and read how to do this stuff.
This is the Moneyline News Hour. Reporting tonight from New York, Stuart Varney.
Good evening, everyone. Willow is off tonight. The last full trading day of the year, and Wall Street's major indicators finished off their record highs. Not at all representative of the kind of year Wall Street and investors have enjoyed. Tonight, we'll look at an unprecedented year for tech stocks and the index they call home, the NASDAQ. But first, Rhonda Schaffler joins us from the New York Stock Exchange with more on the most widely followed market index of them all, the Dow Industrials. Rhonda?
Stuart, blue chip stocks danced in and out of record territory all day, but they turned lower as investors who've enjoyed stellar returns all year cashed in. The Dow lost 31 points to end at 11,452. Volume on the big board, 557 million shares, the lightest full day of trading this year. Who better to ring the closing bell on the last full day of trading than the woman who for many personified this bull market, Abby Joseph Cohen. In an interview with CNN-FN, the Goldman Sachs stock strategist made it clear her opinion hasn't changed.
The U.S. economy is performing extremely well. U.S. corporations are doing even better now that the global economy has perked up. So we think stock prices are moving yet higher from here.
Cohen may have been one of the stock market's biggest cheerleaders, but even she didn't predict a year like this one. And for the Dow, 1999 was a year of sweeping changes.
In a year when new economy internet stocks proved to be far sexier than the old smokestack industrials, the Dow Jones Industrial Average still managed to mark the year with new milestones, new members, and a more than respectable gain. The Dow tonight is up 25% on the year. Not as much as the NASDAQ, of course, but still beating its performance the previous year.
I think the Dow was a pretty good bellwether this year of how the economy did. We saw some sector rotation out of the high-flying tech stocks into the basic materials in the spring. Then we saw the techs come back and, of course, have a great rally here in the fourth quarter.
Explosive growth in the spring, fertilized by 3 successive interest rate cuts at the end of 1998, sent the Dow through the 10,000 level for the first time ever. But after an impressive start to 99, the Dow flagged for 4 months. But patience brought profits by year-end. Driving the sudden swing, a new batch of blue chips in the mix. The editors of the Wall Street Journal swapped 4 spots in the industrial average, adding Microsoft, Home Depot, Intel, and SBC Communications. And dropping from the big board, Chevron, Goodyear Tires, Sears Roebuck, and Union Carbide. While most investors applauded the move, some now see more of a managed portfolio than a core sample of American industry.
Typically, the ones they took out had very little sales growth, but the ones they put in had 20% sales growth. This is not an index that's just representative of the American economy anymore. They're actually selecting winners and dropping losers.
3 of the companies added to the Dow ranked in the top 5 performers this year. On the other side of the spectrum, some old favorites, including an American icon, Coca-Cola.
I think also it's just been lack of interest. That is to say, in a year of high-tech and biotech and internet stocks, the old Dow components have people a little bit concerned.
Two of the companies taken out of the Dow would have been the second and third worst performing shares ahead of Philip Morris, Sears Roebuck, and Goodyear Tire and Rubber. Stuart?
Rhonda Schaffler right there at the big board. But it is not the Dow that people will be talking about years from now when they look back on 99. No, it's the NASDAQ. That index is now up 84%, the best single-year performance for any U.S. market in history. But unlike the rest of the year, today's NASDAQ performance was not exactly memorable. After spending much of the day in record territory, the index lost 4.5. It closed at 4,036. The volume, though, still just over 1 billion shares. The S&P 500 is running far behind the NASDAQ this year, but it did hit a new high today. It was up a point at 1464. On the big board, winners topped losers by a 9-7 margin. The number of new 52-week highs, 117, but again, beaten out by the number of new lows, which came in at 159. 1 day away from the new millennium, we'll soon find out whether all the Y2K preparations have paid off. But plenty of people will not be taking any chances. Some transportation will be shut down during the 15 minutes before and after the date rollover. Most airlines have cancelled flights, though 45 planes will be in the air at the stroke of midnight. The 53 Amtrak trains running Friday night will grind to a halt, stopping in stations or pausing for champagne on the tracks, actually. Remember, though, it's just a 15-minute pause. Apartment and commercial buildings will turn off their elevators. Disneyland will ground some of its rides just in case the power goes off. Visitors will have to wait until 12:15 to take that Peter Pan's flight. Now, for more on the financial markets and how they're gearing up for the Y2K rollover, we have this report from Alan Dodds-Frank.
As a very merry 1999 closes on Wall Street, the government, brokerage firms, and banks are confident Y2K is under control.
We don't expect any type of catastrophic event. We're here really to mainly monitor the markets, try to make sure, and stop also perhaps some public perception from arising out of a minor incident from becoming a bigger incident in the public's mind that causes a problem in and of itself.
As the celebrations peak in Times Square, the real drill of Wall Street's Y2K preparedness will just be getting underway. It will be the first test of whether all the claims of readiness are just talk or the truth. Throughout the New Year's Eve weekend, thousands in the financial community, particularly those in computer departments, will be working, eating catered food at the office, and staying at financial district hotels that would normally be empty.
We will have a total of about 100 people here at the stroke of midnight checking out the infrastructure.
The people that will be in working the night shifts are mainly the IT people. And then what the firms are doing on Saturday during the day, they're bringing in their operations and business people in to check all the output from Friday night.
Merrill Lynch has spent $520 million to get ready.
We're really pretty comfortable that we're in good shape. We're concerned probably more that there might be an entity outside the firm that might have some kind of problem, which in turn could affect us.
Gruntle's command center expects to remain calm, despite worries about the unknown, such as whether the power will be interrupted.
We're all sitting here thinking that it's going to go smoothly and, you know, from our lips to God's ear it will, but we just don't know yet.
Monday will be the first definitive indication of whether Y2K will be a real problem, but experts would like to get through the first quarter before they sound the all clear. Alan Dodds-Frank, CNN Financial News, New York.
A quick look now at some of tonight's top stories outside the world of business. Talks to end that hijacking standoff in Afghanistan are on course. A Taliban official says the negotiations are, quote, promising and going well. Now, one of the hijackers' 155 hostages was today removed from the jet for cancer care and then put back on board. Former Beatle George Harrison tonight in stable condition in a London hospital recovering from a knife attack. A 33-year-old man allegedly broke into Harrison's mansion and stabbed the star in the chest. Harrison's wife, Olivia, suffered a slight head injury. Police say they're not sure of the attacker's motive. And 5 dead in a shooting at a packed Tampa, Florida hotel. Police say a gunman opened fire in the Radisson Bay Harbor Inn, killing 4 of his fellow employees. He then allegedly tried to steal a car and escape, leaving a 5th person dead. And now this. An anti-terrorism move today by the FBI. CNN has learned that agents questioned about 40 people gathering information on suspected Algerian extremist Ahmed Rassam. He allegedly tried to smuggle bomb components this month from Canada into Seattle. Arrested today, one New York man whose name and phone number Rassam was carrying, plus 4 others detained on immigration charges in New York and Boston. And ordered held without bond today, a Canadian woman prosecutors say may have ties to the same militant faction as Rassam. Lucia Garofalo was arrested at the Vermont border on smuggling charges. Coming up on Moneyline, big day for Agilent shares. We'll tell you about that and the day's other big movers. Plus, the top business stories of 1999, including the rise and rise of Alan Greenspan. We'll ask a Financial Times editor for his picks after the break.
From CNN's New York headquarters, this is the Moneyline News Hour.
Paging Dr. Goretti. Dr. Goretti. Dr. Goretti.
Are you a prodigy? Prodigy Internet.
Doctor. Ooh.
Millennium 2000, New Year's Eve on CNN.
Friday on the Emmy Award-winning Larry King Live. We'll have a millennium's worth of guests throughout December. Friday, Larry's special guests are His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Reverend Billy Graham. It's a millennium month of guests. Friday, 9 Eastern, only on CNN.
Tonight on CNN Newsstand, the end of a century, the dawn of a new millennium. Cities around the world prepare for parties and hope for peace. A New Year's Eve to remember. The plans and the precautions. CNN Newsstand, tonight, 10 Eastern.
In tonight's Moneyline Movers, Yahoo jumped 12 3/8 after Argus Research repeated a buy rating on the stock and hiked its price target to $550 a share. Comtouch soared 11 5/8 on 8 times its daily average volume. Microsoft is buying a near 5% stake in the email service provider for $20 million. Agilent Technologies up more than 9.5 in very active trading. Lehman Brothers raised its price target on Agilent to $90 a share. Hewlett-Packard spun off Agilent, its equipment testing division. That was in November. Since then, the stock has more than doubled. There were lots of winners today on the Nasdaq, but none could make up for the selling in several internet stocks. The Nasdaq managed to hold on to the 4,000 milestone, but not its record high. Charles Molyneux joins us live now from the Nasdaq Amex market site. In fact, it's his last report for Moneyline from that location. The Nasdaq's new market site opens Monday in Times Square. Have I got that right, Charles?
That's right, Stuart. Coming up Monday after a not so auspicious today, of course. Some last-minute profit-taking pulled the composite down 4 points after it soared up close to 4,100 early in the day. The financial stocks led the market down, lost 3.5%. Market maker Knight Trimark lost $2. Online broker Ameritrade lost almost $1.50. Yahoo notwithstanding, internet stocks lost 2%. Online auctioneer eBay slid more than $8. But there is still life in those life-oriented stocks of biotech. They gained 2% in this down day. And Immunex gained $9 on the day. The favorite of yesterday, Qualcomm, fell $12. It swung over a range of $102 between its highs and its lows. Strategists figure in the final hours of 99, investors are tying up loose ends, taking last-minute profits, and doing some final tax selling. That'll bring us more high volatility and low volume in the Nasdaq. In the 3.5 hours, the markets will be open tomorrow. Stuart?
Charles Molyneux at the center of the action, the NASDAQ, of course. Thank you, Charles. All right, a year ago tonight, these were some of the stories we were covering here on Moneyline. We told you about a down day for the NASDAQ. It closed at 2166. We looked back at Japan's terrible year and forward at the debut of Europe's common currency set for the very next day. 12 months later, it's a different financial world. And joining us now to talk about the stories that defined 1999, Robert Thompson. He is the U.S. managing editor of the Financial Times. Robert, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Stuart.
I got to put my 2 cents worth in right at the front. And what do you expect, right? In my opinion, the key story is the arrival of the new economy as represented by the NASDAQ. What do you say?
Well, in a way, you're right. The 5 that we've identified for you are what you might even call NASDAQ components. Each of them had a role.
You're hedging.
Well, that's what we're here for, derivative conversation. Basically, without the 5 sorts of things that we've got on our little list, then you wouldn't have had the NASDAQ the way it is. For example, that Alan Greenspan should become more popular than Garth Brooks.
Hold on a second. Let's start out with we've got a list 1 through 5. We're going to start with number 5. What is 5th on your list here?
So 5th on our list is the recovery of East Asia. Now the NASDAQ up 80%, same in South Korea, same in Indonesia, Singapore up 60%, and the topics in Tokyo up more than 60%.
All right, I'll go with that. Number 4.
Number 4 is Alan Greenspan, the deification of Alan Greenspan. He was a god, now he is the god, and those posters of Garth Brooks are coming down from the bedroom walls.
Number 3, please.
Number 3 is what we're looking at,
the dawn of the euro, is it?
The dawn of the euro, indeed. 15 currencies, 15 countries, 11 currencies, they became one. The big question is, when will the pound join in?
But you know, that's a zero story in the United States. I mean, it's just not a story.
It's not a story in the United States, but the US doesn't exist in isolation.
Oh, well, thanks for reminding me. Number 2, please.
The number 2 is the internet IPO boom. More than 50 IPOs in December. 10 years ago, for the whole year in 1990, there were 170 IPOs. The warning there is that 100 of them are either not trading or trading below their offer price.
Now, there's your NASDAQ component, surely.
That's one of the NASDAQ components.
All right, your number 1 story?
Is the big mergers. ExxonMobil's gone through, BP, Amoco, Arco. BP's working its way through the alphabet. Watch out, Conoco. You've got the alphabet soup of Japan, KDD, DDI, and IDO.
As we say in New York, merger, smurger. I mean, what's the real significance of this?
Oh, well, it's the restructuring of industries, both at the macro level and at the micro level, obviously with telecoms and technology playing its role.
Yep.
Companies around the world are changing, but watch out for drugs and banks next year.
Would you agree that 1999 was the year to end all years in the business news area?
It certainly was, but I have to tell you, 10 years ago, I was in Tokyo as the correspondent there, and if we were having the conversation about Japan, we'd be saying exactly the same things.
Well said. Robert Thompson from the FT. Thanks very much for being with us, Robert.
Thanks, Stuart.
Good luck, sir. Next on Moneyline, from bull to bear and back again, tracking Dow history over the 20th century and looking ahead to the 21st. That story is next.
What's converging the world of communications? TI Programmable DSP, combining voice, video, and data over a single line for more people than ever before. From the technology leader in broadband access, Texas Instruments.
Ditech.com puts extra cash in your pocket with their new 125% second mortgage with 0 points.
Use our second mortgage to consolidate bills, pay college tuition, give your daughter that wedding she's always wanted.
A 125% loan means you can borrow more than the value of your home. And 0 points means you'll save a lot of money on closing costs.
That's up to $150,000 in your pocket.
Log on to Ditech.com or call 1-800-71-FIXED.
Weeknights, television's signature primetime newscast, The World Today, showcasing the best of CNN. Wolf Blitzer, Joey Chen, Jim Murray, The World Today, weeknights, 8 Eastern on CNN.
Saturday on CNN's Larry King Live. What a way to kick off the year 2000. Larry's special guest is Microsoft founder Bill Gates. He'll discuss the future of the computer and much more. That's Saturday, 9 Eastern on CNN. Tonight in the Crossfire, who led the 20th century and do we want the same kind of leaders in the new century? The Weekly Standard's Bill Kristol and Harvard professor Cornel West. Tonight, 7:30 Eastern on CNN.
Weeknights at 11. Your best choice for sports news is Sports Tonight with Fred Hickman and Vince Cellini. It's a fun, fast-paced, and smarter approach to sports news. Together with the insiders at Sports Illustrated, Fred and Vince deliver all the day's sports news and highlights in just a half hour. Join Fred and Vince on Sports Tonight, weeknights at 11 on CNN.
Here's some of the stocks hitting new highs today. Top of the list, MedImmune, then followed by some big names, Motorola, CBS, Oracle, and SBC Communications. There is no debating that 1999 was the year of the NASDAQ, with a jaw-dropping gain of 84%. But the title of Index of the Century clearly belongs to the Dow, already 4 years old when the world rang in 1900. Bill Dorman looks now at the market's measure and how it's evolved over 100 years.
When Charles Dow started his industrial average in 1896, railroads were the hot stocks. Trains were so important to the country, the rail index got top billing in the newspaper over the industrial average. The dozen stocks in the original Dow reflected the economy, heavy on commodities, with companies such as American Cotton Oil, National Lead, and Federal Steel. Prohibition was 9 years old when the Dow expanded to 30 stocks. The year was 1928. Lindbergh had crossed the Atlantic the year before. Penicillin was discovered that same year. The next year would bring the great market crash, but not the Dow's worst year. That came in 1931. With the United States mired in depression, the Dow plunged 53%. The Dow's biggest one-day percentage loss was October 19th, 1987, a fall of 23%. 10 years later, on October 27, 1997, the Dow was falling so fast, trading was halted twice, closing with a loss of more than 7%. The Dow's best year came in 1915, when Europe was at war and the United States was not, and the Dow gained 82%. Companies have been shuffled in and out of the Dow since its beginnings. Today, General Electric is the only original Dow stock still in the average. The company has changed a great deal on its way from being a Thomas Edison company to a Jack Welch company, just as the Dow Jones Industrial Average has also changed.
Since the early part of this century, it has represented a broad segment of industrial America. The question now, as we make a transformation from the manufacturing age to the information ages, does the Dow still represent the U.S. economy?
Editors at the Wall Street Journal have tried to keep up with the times. They're the ones who maintain the Dow 30. This year saw the first Dow stocks coming from the NASDAQ, Microsoft and Intel, added along with Home Depot and SBC Communications. Leaving the Dow, Chevron, Goodyear, Union Carbide, and Sears. But that's still not enough adjustment for some Dow critics.
Well, it's something that's, I think, gotten dated because we only have 30 stocks in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and it probably should be broadened or eventually replaced by a much wider average.
In the Dow's defense, over time, it has pretty closely tracked the performance of the Standard & Poor's 500.
But it's the history and tradition of the Dow that carry much of its appeal, even if at the end of the trading day, the average still only tells a story of 30 stocks. Bill Dorman, CNN Financial News, New York.
And when I first covered the American financial markets, the Dow was at 574. Work that one out. Up next, top executives from old line companies looking at those new dot-com upstarts. We'll be back.
Until now, there has been a wall between you and the tools of serious trading. That wall is coming down. The information and technology professionals use to trade is now available to everyone. Daytech Online. The rules are changing.
The other day, I'm driving down Broadway when that pastrami on ride catches up with me. Heartburn, big time. My passenger says, "Here, take a Zantac 75. I say, "What are you, a doctor?" And he says, "Yeah."
The medicine in Zantac 75 is the #1 doctor-prescribed acid reducer. It relieves even your toughest heartburn, controlling acid for up to 12 hours.
A real gentleman, that doctor.
Zantac 75 for tough heartburn. Doctors know.
Ever wonder why the Sunday paper is so huge? Could it be because we have more free time on Sunday? Now Sprint gives a little free phone time on Sunday, too. 1 hour free every Sunday night with Sprint Nickel Nights. Just call 1-877-4-NIGHTS now and switch to Sprint Nickel Nights. You'll get 1 hour of free calls every Sunday night for the next 6 months. And with Sprint Nickel Nights, you'll also get that great 5 cents a minute rate all night long, every night of the week. 1 hour free Sunday nights. It's Sprint's way of giving you free calls for when you have free time. You know, for catching up on all the really important news. Family, friends, life. Communications makes more sense at the point of contact. Read the paper all day, talk on the phone all night. Sounds like a perfectly sensible plan to me. Get 1 hour free every Sunday night and pay just 5 cents a minute every night of the week. Call 1-877-4-NIGHTS and switch to Sprint Nickel Nights.
Here's some of the stocks hitting 52-week lows today. Priceline.com again, Dayrunner, Kellogg down there, iVillage, and Fruit of the Loom. And finally this half hour, imagining the future and explaining the present with top CEOs. Recently, I attended a corporate retreat sponsored by Chief Executive magazine at the former Kennedy compound in Palm Beach, Florida. I talked with executives from all across corporate America about leadership, the new economy, and the dot-com craze. Here's a quick look at some of what they had to say. I began by asking them if they felt just a bit jealous of instant internet billionaires.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't I be?
Many of them aren't going to work, but there's going to be lots of winners.
I'm not so sure there will be a coming dot-com crash.
We don't know where it's going to go ultimately, but we can't afford to sit on the sidelines and watch it happen.
I'm running an old line company. I've got shareholders that have not been able to meet their needs because we're not a stock price that's been accelerating.
Corporations are everywhere, they're very pervasive, and I think they'll play a larger role in the scheme of things in the future.
Leadership in the next century will be more personal. I think that we are still going to have a personality that will come through this electronic generation.
Forward-thinking CEOs are going to turn to much, much younger people to take much bigger roles in the future of their companies. I think it would be silly to think that there wouldn't be some kind of a recession.
I think the economy is going to keep motoring on because the changes that are happening are real and the opportunities in the rest of the world are real. I think we're running awfully hard. I think we don't yet understand this economy. I'm concerned about the political process right now and where we're going. I think we're going to see a downturn.
Every single one of them, by the way, that I spoke to at least, is fully on board with the whole concept of the new economy. Still to come on the Moneyline News Hour, our special look at the roaring 90s and the young executives the internet built. Meet the men behind Cosmo.com. And if you blinked this year, you might have missed it. We'll tell you about the Nasdaq's meteoric rise in 1999. All of those stories are coming up next.
Beginning in one day, 100 hours of non-stop around-the-world coverage. Millennium 2000, only on CNN.
A major inventory clearance event is now underway at Standard TV and Appliance. The year-end clearance means huge savings on dozens of name-brand products. Hurry to Standard for 0% financing, plus clearance prices on big screens, satellite systems, recliners, appliances, and more during this store-wide event. The year-end clearance, that's Standard TV and Appliance on Southeast 82nd, in Tigard on Highway 99, and Beaverton on Canyon Road.
Looks like the Blanchards just got some new computer equipment. The Elliots, a restaurant-style fridge. And how about the Toomey's home theater system? Nice. Well, the Simons have something none of the neighbors have. Electricity. Introducing the Coleman Vertex generator. It's easy to move and starts with a key. So when the power goes out, your family won't miss a thing. Coleman, making sure life goes on.
your brother?
Want to change your body? Gold's Gym.
Undecided over what car to buy next? What car to buy next? What car to buy next? What car to buy? Well, we can do something about that for you. AutomallUSA.com means easy access to the most comprehensive automotive information resources available. Still undecided? Go here. AutomallUSA.com.
With Carol Lynn and Leon Harris. Weekdays on CNN. Moneyline continues. Here again, Stuart Varney.
It was a record-setting session on Wall Street, but only for the S&P 500 index. In our special series, The Roaring 90s, we'll profile the company we're calling the great wealth creator of the decade. And we'll look back at a century of CEOs and tell you about the businessman of the century. First, our top story. A mighty 99 for the NASDAQ. It is unarguably the star of the year. An American stock index has never performed better, and very few have even come close. Tonight, the NASDAQ's 1999 gain stands at 84%. A gain fueled by investors' insatiable appetite for technology. Peter Viles reports.
It seems like it was years ago, a time when investors worried about impeachment and interest rates. In January, the NASDAQ was in the 2200s, and some felt investors were ignoring an internet bubble.
All I know is that these stocks continue to go higher, and this is the biggest bubble that I think that's ever existed in the financial world.
In March, there was war in Yugoslavia. The Dow's run at 10,000, and the NASDAQ stuck in the 2300s.
There are concerns out there that come the second half of the year, a lot of companies are going to freeze spending on technology products in order to get ready for Y2K.
In spring, a washout. Internet stocks were hammered. The NASDAQ was still in the 2300s, and some said enough air had come out of the bubble.
Internet stocks are down 30–40% as a whole. When you have a decline of that nature and the fundamentals haven't significantly changed, you want to buy them when they have these types of declines.
By September, the NASDAQ had climbed above 2,800, and investors were discovering Internet applications beyond e-commerce.
What happened to the Internet became 5 or 6 different industries rather than one. It was the business to consumer at first, and then it was e-commerce, then it was e-marketing, then it was business to business, and there's a whole lot of different areas to the Internet.
The tide truly turned in the fall. By early November, the NASDAQ was near 3,000 amid the belief the Internet was spawning a new economy.
The market is recognizing we are an information-based economy here in the United States, and we are going to be led by the technology stocks.
Then the rally accelerated. The NASDAQ roared past 3,500 in early December. There was talk once more of a bubble.
Some of these companies have gotten to levels that are absolutely stupid, and what's happening is there's new verbiage to explain it. They no longer talk about price earnings. They get into voodoo words, economic enterprise value going into the future. This is a sign of a bubble, and a bubble will burst.
But at 4,000 and change on the eve of a new century, those who believed in the NASDAQ and the new economy had the last word of 1999.
The idea of a new economy is clearly behind the strength of the NASDAQ overall. Their great tagline of the market for the next 100 years, it was the market for this year, not the next 100.
Peter Viles, CNN Financial News, New York.
Well, the NASDAQ today took a rare breather from its record run. It took its breather actually in the final hour of trading. After jumping almost 50 points today, the NASDAQ actually finished down 4.5 at 4,036. As for the Dow, it also backed off its all-time high. It lost 31, back to 11,452. But the S&P 500 did eke out a second straight record, and that is its 34th this year. A fairly quiet day in the bond market, but a winning one nonetheless. The Treasury's 30 issue rose 10 ticks, at 10/30 seconds that is. The yield tonight, 6.41%. That drop in bond yields certainly didn't hurt financial stocks. The sector is also getting a boost from hopes that fourth quarter profits will be gangbusters for banks and brokerages, especially after Charles Schwab yesterday said December was its best month on record. One stock that has been on fire this week, Goldman Sachs. It hit another new high today. Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, Merrill Lynch, Donaldson, Lufkin, and Genretz, they also rallied. Up next on Moneyline, you've got more than mail if you owned America Online stock in the 1990s. We'll tell you about the wealth that Steve Case built. And in the decade of the dot-com startup, the CEOs seem to be getting younger and the buzz growing louder.
I think I'll go out for a magazine.
You're going to go out for that? Cosmo.com has magazines. Freddie!
I think I'll go get a video and some chocolate ice cream.
You're going to go out for that?
Tonight's Sectors Report is brought to you by the banking and finance industry professionals at KPMG. KPMG, it's time for clarity.
He's man's best friend. Always there when you need him. Faithful to the end. So it's good to know that if you don't keep up with internet technology, someone will still be there for you.
Peace on Earth? Yes, of course. But for how long? Nobel Peace Prize winner Shimon Peres says that will depend on how much food is available. He says freedom and peace require food. Hungry people can't understand the value of freedom, and people who are starving can hardly become a peaceful people. So it is fundamental that there will be no peace and no prosperity in the world until all of us have enough to eat. In our own case, even with all of our great wealth of technology, the old problem of food scarcity still remains one of the greatest threats to peace on Earth. Think about it.
The greatest weapons the world has ever had in the war against hunger are high-tech agriculture, advanced science, and modern food production. As a foot soldier in this battle, the Archer Daniels Midland Company has created the world's largest food processing and distribution network. At ADM, our marching orders are clear. Hunger must be eliminated.
Weeknights, television's signature primetime newscast, The World Today, showcasing the best of CNN. Wolf Blitzer, Joey Chen, Jim Murray, The World Today, weeknights, 8 Eastern on CNN.
Tonight on the Emmy Award-winning Larry King Live, we'll have a millennium's worth of guests throughout December. Tonight, Larry's special guest is Jack Hanna. It's a millennium month of guests. Tonight, 9 Eastern, and all month, only on CNN.
Tonight on CNN Newsstand, the end of a century, the dawn of a new millennium. Cities around the world prepare for parties and hope for peace. A New Year's Eve to remember, the plans and the precautions. CNN Newsstand, tonight, 10 Eastern.
In tonight's Moneyline Focus, the roaring 90s, a decade defined by a booming economy and arguably the greatest bull market Wall Street's ever seen. The 90s can also be dubbed the decade of dot-com. And tonight, we bring you the story of an internet pioneer, the company we're calling the Great Wealth Creator, America Online. $10,000 invested in that stock when it debuted in 1992 would be worth almost $7 million tonight. Bruce Francis has the story of AOL, the company that has introduced millions of people around the world to the internet.
For hedge fund manager Rajiv Chaudhry, inspiration for his greatest investment ever came from an unusual place.
A friend of mine met his girlfriend in a chat room on AOL, and I thought that was pretty powerful.
In 1995, Chaudhry started buying America Online, and he hasn't looked back. But he has looked up. Adjusted for splits, Chaudhry's original investment in AOL costs less than $2 a share. At over $76 now, that's a return on investment of more than 3,700%.
The thing that originally attracted me towards AOL was the fact that they were offering a whole new kind of application on the PC. You know, if you recall, back then the dominant applications that people were using PCs for were shrink-wrapped software for spreadsheets or word processing or games.
Now the king of online media, for much of its history, AOL looked more like a long shot than a sure thing. When AOL went public back in 1992, it faced a trio of powerful and well-funded competitors, which dwarfed the Virginia-based company. But one by one, they were vanquished. Remember Genie? General Electric pulled the plug. Prodigy, backed by IBM and Sears, stalled, only to be relaunched as an internet-only service. And the once dominant CompuServe, AOL acquired in 1998.
Other competitors have taken on AOL, some even thought to be AOL killers, like Microsoft's MSN Online service, which after a brisk start appears to have plateaued. Netscape's web browser was going to make AOL irrelevant, but it too ended up being acquired by AOL last year. Then there's Yahoo with its menu of free information services drawn from the web. It's a solid number 2, but has hardly dethroned AOL. Behind AOL's success, analysts say, is a savvy CEO who, for most of the company's history, focused on market share, not profits.
There have been a couple of internet companies that basically have been lucky. AOL is not one of them. AOL, and I actually credit this to Steve Case, he believed in what he was doing when no one else believed.
That belief has translated into explosive growth for membership, now topping 20 million internet users, several times the nearest competitor. And AOL stock has grown from a split-adjusted 11 cents a share to almost $77 now, a gain of almost 70,000%. AOL is the granddaddy of all internet stocks. It opened investors' eyes to a new way of doing business and how to put a value on it.
It certainly taught us that the old measures of, PE ratios and cash flow weren't enough, that we needed to fund expansion before we could reap the rewards.
The reward is that AOL is now one of a handful of internet companies that are actually profitable.
I give AOL management credit with keeping that ship afloat. And it was Steve Case, and it was followed by Bob Pittman, who was the first one who really recognized that he could leverage that huge customer base he had. Smart management made the difference here.
It made the difference for investors like Rajiv Chaudhry.
It's been my best pick in terms of my investment career.
And while there are still plenty of challenges like free internet service, Chaudhry and many other investors vow to hold on. Bruce Francis, CNN Financial News, New York.
All right, more now on the roaring 90s and the decade defined by the dot-com revolution. The internet economy was built by mostly young, very young business leaders who craved a challenge and who were unafraid of the offbeat. Our own Greg Clarkin went behind the scenes with the founders of Cosmo.com, who were still teenagers when this decade began.
Joseph Park began the 90s as a high school senior, looking forward to graduation and summer vacation. He ends the decade as the CEO of a fast-growing internet company. Park and Young Kang are co-founders of Cosmo.com. Both are a few years shy of 30.
Well, I mean, back in 1990, I don't think the internet was even around. I mean, when we both graduated college in '94, I think my goal and I think Young's goal also was, investment banking. I mean, it was like the preferred path to go down. And working at Goldman was my dream job.
Both Park and Kang worked on Wall Street after college, and both planned on business school, until the internet beckoned. Cosmo has been called Amazon.com on a sugar high.
Want a video, a book, a DVD? Cosmo guarantees they'll get it to you in less than 1 hour. A fleet of bike messengers brings the products to you in cities like New York and Seattle. When the company expands to the suburbs, they'll use cars. Park says the idea grew out of his frustration in ordering a book through Amazon.
That's when this idea just hit me. I said, wait a minute, time out. What just happened here? I was an Amazon customer, really excited about the Amazon experience, but they lost me because they couldn't fulfill one basic need, that I wanted the book today.
But today, more and more people are getting their books thanks to an advertising campaign any business veteran would be proud of.
You're going to go out for that? Cosmo.com has videos and ice cream.
Jason McCabe Calcanis has chronicled the internet explosion. He says the pair are typical of internet builders, a group that's gone from teenagers to executives almost overnight.
For these people, these are not jobs. This is their lives. It's their life mission. And if they work 12 hours a day, it's better to work 12 hours a day at a job where you own the company and you feel like you're fulfilling your lifelong vision than work 8 hours a day and hate it.
Cosmo has grown from just Park and Kang to about 300 employees, and the pair hopes to expand from their present 6 markets to 30.
Have you talked to him yet about the relationship he has with Nabisco, Procter & Gamble?
Just around the corner for Cosmo.com, the big, bold step for a web company started in the 90s internet gold rush, an initial public offering, which will bring a fresh supply of capital for the as-yet profitable company to deliver on. Greg Clarkin, CNN Financial News, New York.
Coming up on Moneyline, there have been many great businessmen over the past 100 years, but there can only be one businessman of the century, at least according to Fortune magazine. Next, Willow's talk with the voting committee at Fortune, how they chose the #1, and who came in as runner-up.
Moneyline Focus is brought to you by The Hartford. Whatever life brings you, bring it on.
I don't think so. And as for the bedroom, I said chintz, not chintzy. Watch the piano. I can't get a window seat.
Possibility 1, a plate glass window breaks its fall. Your Hartford Small Business Insurance pays to replace it. Possibility 2, your double parked truck breaks its fall. The Hartford pays to repair caved-in roof. Possibility 3, a meter maid breaks its fall. You did opt for liability, didn't you? Whatever life brings you, bring it on.
Monday on CNN's Larry King Live. What a way to kick off the year 2000. Monday in her first live primetime interview, Monica Lewinsky will be Larry's special guest. That's Monday, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Tonight on CNN Newsstand, the end of a century, the dawn of a new millennium. Cities around the world prepare for parties and hope for peace. A New Year's Eve to remember, the plans and the precautions. CNN Newsstand, tonight, 10 Eastern.
It's the biggest story of the year, the century, the millennium. And who better to cover it than CNN? With 60 of its top correspondents in key locations around the world, CNN will usher in the new year live from every time zone on the planet, bringing you the global celebrations, reporting any and all Y2K events, examining the big issues that lie ahead. Millennium 2000, 100 hours of non-stop coverage beginning New Year's Eve on CNN.
As we close in on the year 2000, all you hear about is the dot-com craze and the digital revolution. But when Fortune magazine recently anointed the businessman of the century, it chose a man who spawned a revolution at the beginning of the century, Henry Ford. Earlier this month, Willow talked with the writers and editor who helped choose Mr. Ford over the other worthy contenders, Bill Gates, IBM's Tom Watson, and GM's Alfred P. Sloan.
First of all, he invented the Model T, which was the first really popular priced automobile, sold for $800 at a time when most cars sold for $2,000 or $3,000. Then he invented the moving production line so he could actually make the Model T. And then third, to staff the moving production line, he established the $5 a day. People were being paid $1 or $2 a day to work in factories, and he started paying them $5 a day.
Alfred Sloan.
Alfred Sloan moved into General Motors about 1921. At a time when GM had already practically gone bankrupt twice, and he turned it from an assemblage of manufacturers and parts companies and brands like Buick and Cadillac into one modern corporation. He invented the annual styling change, so the 1926 Chevy was different from the 1927 Chevy. He started painting his cars in colors. Henry Ford only wanted them in black. And he built GM until the biggest company on earth until very recently.
Gates and Watson.
If there was one company that epitomized the post-war boom in America, post-World War II boom, it was IBM. When you thought organization man or you thought American corporation, IBM was the first company people would think about. And Tom Watson is the man who made IBM that IBM. He took a business from his father that dominated the punch card industry and moved it into computing just as computers were coming out of the labs. And for his day, he made more money for shareholders than any businessman ever had in history. Now, Gates, of course, managed to eclipse Watson on the money front. Gates took Microsoft from zero to something like $400 billion in market cap in just 20 years. The other strong qualifying trait that Gates had is a computer in every house, a computer on every desk. He was the man with the Model T vision for the computer, and he made it real.
Eric, once you reached the Final Four, how intense did the debate get?
Oh, well, it got pretty heated. There were old economy versus new economy advocates, people who pointed out that the Gates story wasn't over yet, for example. The guy is only 44 years old, and he could run into the same sorts of trouble late in his career that Ford did, or that GM has run into.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You know, Gates keeps, or for a long time, kept a photograph of Henry Ford on the wall of his office, and one of our writers asked once whether that meant Henry Ford was his hero, and he said, no, I keep it there to remind me that things can go wrong.
Make the case why cars and not computers in terms of transforming power on the American century.
For the 20th century, it's clearly cars, because we've only had computers for the last 20 or 30 years. And cars ended the American farm, gave farmers a chance to drive off the farm to drive into the city. They created the suburbs. They led the whole expansion of the post-war economy.
Yeah, think of it. The oil industry, the automobile industry, the road building industry, suburbia and the home building industry, just the way we all live our lives. The strip mall. These are all the children, grandchildren, and bastard children of Henry Ford.
How important was a consideration of the entrepreneurial spirit, the ability to create something when you picked your winner?
To me, that's really key, because that's the one great contribution of American capitalism, is this entrepreneurial spirit. Europe doesn't have it, Japan doesn't have it. We have it in spades. We invented venture capital. We've always had guys working in their garages and making things, because we have a very free and democratic society. You can't do it in Europe because the society is too stratified. You can't do it in Japan. So
yeah, and you know, it was funny. What we came to realize as we narrowed it down to our final choice, Henry Ford, was that if we had been asked to choose the entrepreneur of the century, it probably would have been the same choice.
In the end, it was that entrepreneurial spirit that decided it for us. We had some world-class managers and business operators, but we went with the greatest entrepreneur and businessman.
And what was the final vote of the Fortune staff? Here it is. Ford, 22 votes. Gates, 7. Watson, 0. Sloan, 0. Henry Ford won it, going away. Next on Moneyline, the 20th century boom and bust in the eyes of our very own Myron Kandel. Myron's reflections on 100 years of change for the economy and Wall Street. Next.
Excuse me, where's plywood? Aisle 20.
Are you a prodigy? Prodigy Internet.
Bob Vila tells homeowners how to get out from under credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Bob Vila, and these are offers to get credit cards. It's pretty easy to get them, not so easy to get out from under the bills. How many credit card bills do you get each month? 3, 5, more? And how much interest are you paying? 16, 18%? Do you even know? And don't be fooled by introductory rates that only last a few months. You can eliminate those bills. You can stop paying that high interest. Here's how. Just call Home 123. The loan counselors at Home 123 will show you how to turn your high-interest credit card bills into one bill that's probably a lot less than you're paying now. And the interest may even be tax-deductible, unlike credit card interest. Imagine just one bill a month and money left in your pocket. So, if you own your own home, call Home 123 right now and discover how to get rid of all those credit card bills. Call 1-800-HOME-123 or visit us on the web at home123.com. It's how to get the money you need.
Not long after the ball drops on the year 2000, the American economy will enter its longest expansion in history, a dream run that has powered Wall Street's unprecedented bull market. We thought it was worthwhile to look back on how we got here, a financial odyssey, as seen by our own Myron Kandel. Mike, what do you got?
Well, Stuart, it's been a great century for the American economy, transforming itself from farming to industry to service and now information, and in the process producing the most prosperous nation in the history of the world. But what struck me as I look back is a startling parallel between how the century started and how it's ending. On Wall Street, the 20th century began in the midst of a giant 10-year bull market, with an economy flexing its industrial muscle. A wave of mergers and acquisitions swept through American business, the biggest of all in 1901, the creation of United States Steel, which encompassed what once were 170 individual companies. Trusts in oil, railroads, and tobacco developed as well. Morgan, Rockefeller, and Harriman became household names and the targets of muckraking journalists and trust busters. As World War I engulfed Europe, New York supplanted London as the financial capital of the world. Wall Street and the rest of the nation flourished in the roaring 20s, and a broad range of Americans caught the stock market fever, sending prices to unheard-of heights. Speculation and manipulation ran rampant. The automobile, the telephone, and other technological developments were changing the face of America. Times were so good, there was even talk about a new economy, no longer bound by the business cycle. Sound familiar? Then came the 1929 crash. Stock prices fell 90% from their high that year to their low in 1932. The euphoria of the 20s turned into the despair of the Depression, with a quarter of the nation out of work. President Franklin Roosevelt and his New Deal brought social welfare programs, regulatory reform, and a new sense of confidence to the nation, but the economy did not really begin to prosper again until World War II sent American industry into high gear. With the war ended, the United States led the free world, challenged only by the Soviet Union, which proved eventually to be a hollow economic shell and a failed ideology. But Americans prospered, building homes and highways, raising baby boom families, and weathering domestic turmoil in the 60s and 70s, from protests over civil rights and the war in Vietnam to the resignation of a president in disgrace, to long lines at the gasoline pump and raging inflation. In 1980, a conservative president was elected. The Federal Reserve tamed inflation, and even though the budget deficit began soaring, the greatest bull market in U.S. history began in 1982 with the Dow at 776 and kept going. This history that began with a fast-growing economy, a stock market boom, and a wave of corporate consolidations is ending on the very same note. It's giving the 21st century a good start, but let's hope we've learned enough to avoid another depression. Stuart?
I don't care what they say. No new economy has ever repealed the business cycle, period.
I agree.
Oh, and thanks for hiring me 20 years ago. Many thanks, Mike. Up next, ahead of the curve, some of what you need to know tonight before the markets open tomorrow.
Ahead of the Curve is brought to you by Daytech Online. The rules of online trading are changing.
Until now, there has been a wall between you and the tools of serious trading. That wall is coming down. The information and technology professionals use to trade is now available to everyone. Daytech Online. The rules are changing.
Here's what's going on tomorrow on Wall Street, the last day of trading in 1999. The stock and bond markets close at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for New Year's Eve, and some of your favorite stocks will look a lot cheaper. But don't be fooled, they're simply splitting. Qualcomm, for example, was split 4-for-1, which puts that stock at around $161 a share. MCI, WorldCom, Home Depot, they'll split 3-for-2. That's Moneyline for this Thursday, which is our last broadcast for the year, and as a matter of fact, for the century. Tomorrow evening, our viewers on CNN will see CNN's special Millennium 2000 coverage. Willow and I will be back with you Sunday evening at 10 p.m. Eastern with a special half-hour broadcast, First Trade 2000, as we track the Asia market openings and look ahead to those in this country on Monday. We hope you join us. For now, I'm Stuart Varney. Good night and early wishes for a very happy and, of course, prosperous new year. Crossfire's next. Here's Mary Madeline.
Thanks, Stuart. The 20th century witnessed unprecedented progress and unparalleled evil. Who and what were the forces for good, and will they prevail in the 21st century? Leadership in the American century next on Crossfire.
For all your financial news all the time, CNNFN.com. On the web, 24 hours a day.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Bell Atlantic,
your guide through the wiles of communications.
Tonight in the crime